When I started this series, I didn't understand how much of it would come down to one thing: not motivation, not excitement, not inspiration, but discipline. And I didn't really understand what that meant until the motivation faded, because motivation is loud, it feels good, it feels productive, it makes you feel like you're changing your life. The first day I stepped into this yard with the camera, it felt something. It felt symbolic. It felt like it wasn't just cleaning, it was starting something: a new year, a new habit, a new direction. And that feeling carried me for a while. But things don't last forever. There came a point, not dramatic, not obvious, where the excitement just wasn't quite there anymore. The yard still needed work, the camera still needed to be turned on, and the trash still needed to be moved. But I didn't feel the same spark. And that's when I realized something important. If I relied on motivation to finish, it never would have gotten finished. There was a specific day during this project where I didn't really want to work on it. It wasn't raining, it wasn't impossible, nothing dramatic happened. I just didn't feel it. I looked around at the yard, and instead of seeing opportunity, I saw repetition. The same type of debris, the same type of piles, and the same physical effort. And in that moment, I had a quiet conversation with myself. No one would know if you skipped today. And that's a dangerous part about discipline. Most of the time, there's no immediate consequence for skipping. Nobody's standing there watching. Nobody's forcing you. Nobody's checking attendance. You can choose comfort, and it would feel fine in the moment. But I've started to realize that discipline isn't about consequence, it's about identity. Who am I when nobody is watching? That day, I almost skipped, but instead of committing to finishing anything big, I told myself something simple: just go outside, just touch the yard. That's it. No pressure to complete a section, no pressure to film perfectly, just show up. And once I was out there, I did a little more than I thought I would. Not a lot, but enough. And that's when I understood that discipline doesn't require intensity, it requires persistence. Motivation is based on emotion. If you feel inspired, you move. If you feel tired, you stop. Discipline is structural. It removes the emotional debate. It says, this is what we do, not because it feels good, but because it aligns with who we're becoming. When I started dividing this project into days, it wasn't just for organization, it was a strategy. If I tried to clean the entire yard in one push, I'd burn out. If I told myself I had to make dramatic progress every time, I'd resent it. But if I told myself, we work on this today because that's what we do, it removed the argument. And discipline, I'm realizing, is just reducing the number of internal arguments. You don't negotiate with yourself every day. You decide once, and then you just follow through. There were days early on where I cleared large visible sections. It felt amazing. You step back and you look at the difference instantly. But later in the project, progress got quieter. You clear smaller things, you organize, you refine, and visually, it doesn't look as dramatic. That's when motivation fades the fastest. Because as humans, we're wired to respond to visible changes. When the change becomes subtle, the brain starts to question if it's worth it. But discipline doesn't require visible fireworks. It understands compounding. A single bag of trash doesn't look impressive, but 30 bags over time transforms a space. And the same thing applies with habits. You don't see the benefits of one disciplined day, you see the benefit of dozens. This yard is just a physical representation of that principle. Not one point in this series I almost confused discipline with force. I thought being disciplined meant pushing harder. Longer sessions, faster progress, no breaks. But I started to feel something shift. The work stopped feeling meaningful. It started feeling heavy. And that's when I caught myself. Discipline isn't about punishment, it's about sustainability. If I destroy all my energy trying to prove something, I won't come back tomorrow. And discipline only works if tomorrow exists. So I adjusted. I allowed myself to leave a session unfinished. I stopped chasing the feeling of being done. And something interesting happened. When I stopped trying to rush the ending, I started enjoying the process again. That's real discipline, not emotional spikes, no extremes, just steady commitment. The biggest change from this project isn't the yard, it's self-trust. Every time I showed up when I didn't feel like it, I built evidence. Evidence I don't quit when it gets repetitive. Evidence I don't rely on mood. Evidence I can finish something I started. That kind of evidence compounds internally. And once you start seeing yourself as disciplined, your standards shift. You don't skip as easily, you don't rationalize as much, and you don't need external pressure. You operate differently. This backyard became a training ground for that. This isn't about landscaping, it's about life. Health works this way, learning works this way, and building the channel works this way. The beginning of the YouTube channel was exciting. Then it was quiet. The algorithm doesn't reward you immediately. The views don't explode, and that's when most people stop. Not because they can't do it, but because motivation left. If I want this to last, I can't rely on feeling inspired in order to upload. I have to become someone who uploads consistently. And that's because discipline bridges the gap between intention and reality. Now, when I look around, I see progress. But more than that, I see proof. Proof that the small daily efforts work. Proof that the discipline beats emotion. Proof that I can finish. And finishing feels different than starting. Start is hope, finishing is identity. This is part 3, and it's not just the end of a cleanup series. It's the confirmation that motivation might start the journey, but discipline carries it across the finish line. And from here forward, I don't want to rely on sparks. I want structure, I want consistency, I want discipline. Because discipline doesn't fade. This yard taught me discipline. The next challenge will test it. If you've been following this journey, stay with me. Because this wasn't about grass or trash or even clearing space. It was about building structure. And now that the foundation is there, we build. I'll see you guys on the next one and enjoy the rest of the video. Bye bye.